So all the people, first of all, can you guys hear me through the mic? Yes? No? No. Can you all hear me? It's better? Okay. So all the people standing in the back, do you guys want a seat? No? There's seats over here. Just come on in and find a seat. It's a long session. I am so thrilled and honored to be here with you all. I'm Amina Makhdoom. I'm from Laguna Beach, California, which was one of my goals that I set at the age of 16 was to live in Laguna Beach. So about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I moved myself and my company from Washington, D.C. to Laguna Beach. So today, what I'd like to do in my brief time with you guys is talk about what are some of the principles of setting goals so that you can get anything that you want in life. So there's a lot of information out there. There's tons of business books. You can read people's biographies and see all the amazing things that they've done. But really, if you take everyone's story about the work that they've done and you boil it down to some basic principles, the principles work for everybody. And it works for small goals and it works for big goals. So what I'm going to use my time today is to share those principles with you. So back in 2004, I worked for a large management consulting company, and I had a pretty good life. I didn't have anything to complain about. I lived in DC, and I was working about 60-hour work weeks, which compared to most of my colleagues was actually considered a really good job, and making a good amount of money. And I sat down one day and I said, okay, if I could do anything I wanted with my life, like anything at all, I was 25 years old. Well, what would I do with my life? And this is the kind of conversation that I wish I had had when I was in college and when I was sitting in your seats. And I did have those conversations in college, but I got talked out of it. Anyone here got talked out of what you really wanted to do by your parents, by your friends? Anybody know what that feels like? Yeah, a couple people. You come home with a major and your parents are like, how are you going to make a living doing that? I had a couple of those. I actually wanted to be a police officer. My parents talked me out of that one really quickly. That one didn't even last up to dinner. Wanted to be a teacher. That one got a little bit more traction, but eventually got talked out of that, and eventually went to school and got a major in finance. Why I got a major in finance, I to this day do not know, but I have a degree in finance in case I ever decide to use it. So I was sitting there and I took this big whiteboard, poster board sheet of paper, and I started drawing all these boxes on there because I was going to figure my entire life out. And I needed boxes to figure my entire life out. And I started putting random things in each one of these boxes. And right in the middle box, I wrote that I want to make a difference. And I just didn't really know how to do that at that point in time, but I wrote that. And then one of the boxes I wrote that I didn't want to work a 9-to-5 job. And then another box I wrote that I wanted to double my income while working half as much. Because I figured if I could make double the amount of money and work half as much time, then I could actually go out and do things like community service, and I'd have time to do all these things. So I thought this was the solution that I was going to come up with. And my dad would not be at all disappointed with me because I'm making a good amount of money, so that would be okay if I was working half as much. So I did this, and there was 2 empty boxes on the bottom, which I was like, I'll have to figure out what to put in those boxes, but I don't know for now. And I was like, I'll get back to it, which of course I never did. I still have the poster. I hung it up on my wall, and I did nothing with it. 2 years from that day, I was working in a job where I felt personally like I was making a meaningful difference in people's lives. I had doubled my income while working half as many hours, working 30 hours a week, and I had flexibility. I didn't go to a 9-to-5 job. Now, I didn't purposely try to do any of that. I didn't put this on the poster and then every day wake up and go, okay, what am I going to do to make that happen? I just set the intention that that's what I wanted and believed that it was possible. So there's 5 steps that I want to cover about what I did and what, if you read the biographies of any successful entrepreneurs, successful business people, successful people running nonprofits, you'll see a lot of these themes come up, and I'd love to share those with you. Does that sound like something you guys would all be interested in? Yes? Maybe? Yeah? All right. So the first one is follow your heart. And that one sounds so cliche. Right there, half the audience is like, forget it. I don't want to listen to anything else she has to say. So I'm going to back it up with the science behind following your heart. So I spent a lot of my time trying to figure out what the right thing to do was. And still to this day, I spend a lot of my time trying to figure out what the right thing to do. is. And it really doesn't work that way. To be successful, you really have to be committed to what you're doing. And to be committed to what you're doing, you really have to have some form of passion for what you're doing. So there's actually a group up near San Francisco called the HeartMath Institute, and they have actually studied the impact and the relationship between your heart and your brain. So many people don't know that your heart actually has neurons in it, actually has brain cells in your heart, and these neurons actually communicate with the frontal lobe of your brain. The frontal lobe of your brain, to make this very simple, is what differentiates us from animals. So it's the executive function, the thinking. And it's a one-way communication. So your heart actually communicates to your brain, but your brain doesn't communicate back to your heart. So the way I like to describe it is your heart's kind of like the commander-in-chief, and your brain's the army. Your brain will march in any direction that you want it to march. And oh, by the way, if you don't give it a direction, your brain will march in circles and get absolutely nowhere. So coming up with exactly what it is that you love to do is the first step. And the easiest way to do this, you don't need to take a whiteboard and sit at home and map it all out with boxes. The easiest way to do this is just trust the things that you like to do. If there's things that you enjoy doing, that's the first step in what your passions are. Some of you guys, I can say, what's your passion? You'll be like, boom, 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 and you know. Other people go, I don't really know. I mean, there's a lot of things that I like. I'm not really sure. So just trust the things that you like, and that's the first step in achieving any goals. Because you can put in goals. Anybody who's done New Year's resolutions knows this. You have the same goals show up every year after year after year after year. Those are what I like to call should goals. You should do that. You should reach that, but you're not really into it. If you were really into it, it'd be done already. So that's your first step. The second step is use the power of your subconscious mind. So I spent a lot of time, after consulting, I got into, okay, let me harness, my whole job's about changing people's behaviors. I've spent my entire career trying to change people's behaviors. And if you all have ever tried to change anybody's behavior, you know it's kind of a losing battle to begin with. But I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, how do people's minds work? Because if I can figure out people's minds, then I can figure out how to help them change behaviors. And one of the things that I learned during this time is the power of your subconscious mind. So your conscious mind versus your subconscious mind, which one's bigger? Subconscious, and significantly bigger. So let's say 20% conscious, 80% subconscious, and that's being generous. Most places say 8% to 12%. They don't know for sure, but it's significantly bigger. Your subconscious mind thinks in pictures, whereas your conscious mind doesn't think in pictures. So every time you think about what you want, picture, visualize what it is that you want. So I'm just going to do a little example of this for you guys. So close your eyes for a moment. And I'm going to say, don't slam the door. And what's the picture in your mind when I say don't slam the door? A slamming door. Okay, keep your eyes closed. I'm going to say close the door gently. What's the picture in your mind? A door closing gently. All right, go ahead and open your eyes. So your subconscious mind thinks in pictures, and what most people do when they set goals or when they come up with what they want to do with their life is they talk about all the things they don't want. Like don't slam the door. And they think, well, these are the things that I'm clear about what I want because I'm saying all the things I don't want. But the problem is your subconscious mind thinks in pictures, and that's 80% of your brain. So the more you talk about what you don't want, the more you're bringing what you don't want into your reality. Does that make sense to everybody? So instead of focusing on what you don't want, like I don't want to be in debt, what would be a different way to focus I don't want to be in debt? I want more money, or I want to live a life where all my expenses are covered, right? So it's you're focusing on what you do want, versus what you don't want. And most people don't do this. When I talk to people, the number one question I ask every one of my coaching clients is, what do you want? And the next 20 minutes, they tell me everything that they don't want. And I'm like, okay, I'm clear on what you don't want. Now what do you want? And then they spend the next 15 minutes telling me everything that they don't want. And then eventually I'm like, I get what you don't want. What do you want? Most people don't have a picture of what they want. They have a picture of what they don't want, But it's really tough to take a step further and go, okay, this is what I really want. And come up with that picture of what it is that you really want. So that's the second one. Engage the power of your subconscious mind, and you do that by having a complete picture of what you want. So when you've accomplished this goal, whatever the goal is, once you've accomplished it, have a complete picture. What does that look like? Thank you. Have a picture of what that looks like. The third step is to take action. I like to say, ready, fire, aim. The only way you get any place in life is by taking action. That's how you get feedback. So you take a step and you get feedback on whether that was the right step to take or not. Do you guys know people who spend all their time trying to figure out what the next step is? And then a week goes by, and then a month goes by, and then a year goes by, and they're still talking about that great idea they have, and they just wish they could figure out the next step. In a year, you could have started the business, gone bankrupt, and started a new business. And you would have learned something from going bankrupt. Am I right? So the world doesn't reward you for what you know, contrary to popular belief. The world rewards you for what you do. And notice that the world rewards people for doing all kinds of things. People who have college degrees, people who don't have college degrees. People who are smart, people who are not very smart. People who are good looking, people who are not very good looking. It's the people who get out and do something that get an impact from it. So take an action. Who cares if it's the wrong action? You'll get feedback, somebody will go, hey, that was a really bad idea. And you'll go, okay, now I know. What's a better way of doing it? And now you're in conversation to actually get some feedback about a better way of doing something. You're sitting at home thinking about it, you're not getting any feedback. The brain's just going in circles around that. So step 3, take action. Step 4 is set meaningful goals. So again, when I was talking about engaging your subconscious mind, focusing on what you want versus what you don't want, most people have goals that if I came into their company, and I work mostly in corporate America, so when I come into people's companies, if I can't figure out what your goal is, your brain can't figure out what your goal is. So if you're using things that are an assumption in your goal, your brain can't figure it out. So if I told you guys my goal was to lose 10 pounds, people say that all the time. That's my goal, lose 10 pounds. I want to lose 10 pounds in the next month, let's say. So February 15th, by March 15th, I want to lose 10 pounds. If you guys saw me on March 15th, would you know for a fact that I'd lost 10 pounds? No. It'd be really hard to tell because you don't know how much I weigh right now, and I'm not going to tell you. And so March 15th, you can make me stand on a scale, but without knowing what number I'm trying to get to, you don't know if I lost 10 pounds or not. Now, if I told you on March 15th, 2013, I want to weigh 103 pounds, could you show up at my house on March 15th and see if I weigh 103 pounds, yes or no? Yeah, it's a lot more clear, yes? And that's clear for your brain too. So people set these goals and they think they're clear because I know how much I weigh, so I know if I lose 10 pounds, I'll know how much that is. But nobody else can come in and see that. And I do this with companies all the time. They have these goals and they know exactly what they're trying to say, but I have no clue what they're saying. So goals is how much by when? How much by when? Those are the 2 questions you want to be able to answer. So if I said to you, I want to make more money, is that a good goal? I just found a penny when we walked in here today. So technically I made more money today. Did I accomplish my goal? Technically, yeah, I made more money. But that might not have been what I meant by the goal I want to make more money. So how much by when? So I want to earn $1,000 more a month by April 20th, 2013. That's clearer, because then I can say to you, how much money are you making today? On April 20th, I can say, how much money are you making now? It's either going to be $1,000 or not. Now, one of the reasons that most people don't set goals, what do you guys think is the biggest reason people don't set goals? They're lazy? Loud. Talk loud. Fear. Fear of what? Fear that they're not going to get the goal. Fear of failure. And I'll actually throw in there also fear of success. I think fear of success holds people back much more than fear of failure. What if you actually did get the goal? What if you actually did make it? What if your dream actually did come true? Oh my goodness, then you'd have to live with that. New life, but you have no clue how to live with that new life because you've never done it before. So there's fear of success too. So let's just talk for a second about the fear of failure. I set 18 goals every year, write them down, how much by when I set them, and I probably get anywhere from 6 to 8 of them that come true, that I make them. And of those 6 to 8, some of them I only get like, let's say 80%. Have I really failed? What do you guys think? If I get 80% of my goal, if I say I want to make $1,000 more a month by April 20th, but I really just make $800 more, did I really fail? I didn't accomplish the goal, that's clear, for all the people in the audience who are like, where you said 1,000, we didn't get 1,000? I didn't accomplish the goal, but I didn't really fail. So here's the thing, set goals that are really huge, set goals that there's no way you can actually make, because what if you actually do? What if you do? What if you just make 80% of it? What if you just make 20% of it? Who cares? In the population, only 3% of the population in the US actually sets goals where they write out their goals. 3%. Guess which 3% of the population that is? These are the highest achievers in the country. They all have goals. Most of them carry them with them. So how much by when? Set goals, write it down. Don't think about it in your head, write it down. Then turn to your friend and say, this is my goal. Does that make some clear sense to you? Can you say how much by when? If your friend goes, I don't know, then it's not a good goal. So just keep clarifying until you get how much by when. And then the last step is to tell people. So my biggest goal is to be a trainer at Disney. And I started talking to people. Disney has a university, a corporate training university. And my goal, my whole reason I moved to California is because I'm like, how cool would it be to like train at Disney? And I'd see the princesses and stuff. And I like that kind of stuff. So for me, that was really cool. So I was like, how cool would this be? So I started telling everybody, I'm like, do you guys know anybody who works at Disney? Because I really want to be a trainer for Disney. That led to my first client in LA. I moved myself and my company over to Laguna Beach. And my first client was ABC Television. So it wasn't Disney training, wasn't the goal that I set. But I did this project at ABC, which led to them introducing me to somebody at Disney, and I'm currently in talks about doing a training class at Disney. So it might not come the way that you think it's going to come. It might not come in the time. Most of my goals don't come in the time that I wrote them. Sometimes they come really quickly, sometimes they come years later. It doesn't matter. Take the time to do that. And just to close, I want to tell you all the story of Lou Holtz. Does everybody know who Lou Holtz is? Some people? Coach at Notre Dame football coach, Lou Holtz. So Lou Holtz used to be a coach at South Carolina. This is early in his career. He had moved himself and his family to South Carolina. His wife was pregnant at the time, I believe, with their second child. And a month after he moved to South Carolina, they fired the head coach, and automatically Lou Holtz lost his job as well. He sat at home, was totally depressed, didn't know what to do. His wife's pregnant. And so his wife went out one day grocery shopping, and on the aisles they had a book, and one of the books was Think and Grow Rich. And so she picked this book up and she brought it home to Lou. And he read this book, he got so inspired. He's like, I could do anything, world is my oyster. So he sat down and he wrote a list of 101 goals. And his wife came home from work. She had gone back to work while pregnant because he didn't have a job. And she came home from work and he shared all these goals with her, and she said he was so excited. He had stuff like land a plane on a Navy, land a fighter plane on a ship, a naval ship. He had meet the president, meet the Pope, all these huge things on his list. And his wife said, Lou, that sounds great. You need to add a 102 on there. And he said, okay. And she said, get a job. So he put that one on there too. And Lou Holtz ended up being a legendary coach at Notre Dame. And he coached all these football players who went on to do great things. And over time, he posted these goals on the back of his office wall. And over time, one of his players went out to work for the Navy, and they said, Coach Holtz, do you ever get to land a plane? And and Lou said, no, I haven't done that yet. He said, come out. I can, I'm a commander now. I can take you out and you can land a plane. So I think of the last time he had accomplished 92 of his 102 goals, including get a job. He did get that one too. So just remember, anything's possible. If I can leave you guys with any advice whatsoever, is just write really huge goals. Because what if you get them? And there's all these people out there who want to support you with them. The people who don't want to support you are much less than the people who do. So thank you all very much for your time. I look forward to your questions.
I hope you guys are really trying to write down goals. And next we have Jamal Hamdani. He is the president and CEO of Mosley, as well as CareerCom and Accelera Broadband, Mosley's subsidiaries. Prior to acquiring Mosley in a management buyout in 1992, he held various management positions with General Research Corporation, the BBC, Philips Research Laboratories, and Jamal became CEO of Mosley in 1996, after which he focused the company on growth as well as breadth. Over the last decade, his leadership resulted in the company's delivering revenues in the excess of $1 billion and produced incomes to shareholders prior to taxes in excess of $350 million. Jamal was a pioneer in digital signal processing and spent 5 years in Africa as a consultant designing and installing telecom networks. After twice being honored as a finalist for Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award for Technology, he won the award in 2002. Jamal received his Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering from ABU Nigeria and his Master's of Science in Electrical Engineering from the Netherlands University. In addition, he attended the AEA Executive Management Program at Stanford, and Jamal is passionate in creating a world in which everyone gives to others what they want for themselves. He is actively involved in various charitable causes around the world. So without further ado, Dr. Jamal Hamdani.
Assalamu alaikum. So if it's okay with you, I'll speak from here. Now? Okay, all right, let's start. Okay, so thank you for all being here. It's really a pleasure to see so many young people here. And I basically want to talk about three things. Briefly talk about things that bring about personal success. And then I'll talk a little bit about the things that bring about organizational success. And then I'll have a few words to share with you about how you all as Muslims can create a better community for yourselves. Okay, so let's start off about personal success. Let me share some data with you. We live in a world, we just welcomed our 7 billionth person in the world, but 1% of the world has half the wealth. We can search the solar system for life, yet more than 9 million children die every year because of malnutrition. We've succeeded in decoding the human genome, but the life expectancy in Africa is 48 years, and that in Japan is 84 years. We have had the greatest advancement in technologies But at the same time, more than 1 billion people are illiterate in the world today. 2/3 of them are women. Everybody talks about peace. But we have so many weapons today that we can destroy ourselves 1,000,000 times over. Very interesting statistic to share with you. As the global citizenry, we are spending $1.5 trillion on weapons. We only spend $30 billion on the United Nations. So, despite all the advances that we have had, the sad thing is we still live in a world of enormous anxiety. And I don't know about you, but have we ever wondered how we got here? What is it that makes us so anxious, so insecure, so unfulfilled in many ways? I've spent a lifetime thinking about this thing. I'm not an authority in it, but I thought I'd share some thoughts with you. I've come to the conclusion that we have allowed self-interest, corporate interest, national interest to trump human interest. And you cannot have humanity if you do not look after human interest. So, what do we need to do to build a better world? I think we have to learn to speak a different language. We have to develop a new vocabulary. And the interesting thing is, before we start telling everybody about what they should be doing towards building a better world, we should first look inside ourselves. What are we going to do towards building a better world? And I want to share some thoughts with you because I've spent a long, long time thinking about it. So here are 5 basic things. Back to Amina's principle, I keep them in groups of 5. First and foremost, give to others what you want for yourself. Our Prophet said, no one is a true believer until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. The Bible, as you know, says, love thy neighbor as thyself. It's the golden rule. Second, value the only thing in life that is not replaceable, and that is life itself. So don't look for any ways in which you use violence as a way to achieving your goals. Okay? The use of force to resolve personal conflict and national conflicts is just not acceptable. We need to look for ways of engaging in dialogue, in discussion, in building consensus, in building humanity that's full of peace and tranquility. Third, make your decisions on principle. Don't make them on self-interest. That's a very important concept. It's going to give you peace in life. Make them on principle. Eisenhower said, those of you remember Eisenhower, he said, a people that values its privileges above its principles soon loses hope. Fourth, speak the truth, particularly to power. The Bible says the truth will set you free. I normally say it's going to make you miserable to begin with, but it'll set you free. So the whole concept of the truth is at the core of every religion. Okay? The preamble to our Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among those, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Finally, the 5th principle, be fair and just in all your actions, but also in all your thoughts. That's very, very important. A man is nothing but a product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. With fairness, justice, and compassion, we can channel our inner thoughts to find the right balance between the rights and obligations for all of us. So that's the issue of self-reflection with those 5 principles. And you've got to look yourself in the mirror every day and ask yourself, how do I free myself from the bigotry that I had? How do I free myself from the biases that I had? How do I free myself from the prejudices that I had? Get them out of your system, because it's a poison that will kill you first before it will do any harm to those you don't wish well. Now, even if we had the most perfect human beings, you're not going to get success. Because success doesn't come from an individual act. It comes from teamwork. So I want to share with you the qualities that make organizations successful. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have organizations that accomplish the biggest goals of them all. Okay? So, here's what successful organizations have. First, they set high goals. Successful organizations do not mix with mediocrity. All right? So set high goals. Second, they work with a sense of urgency. Benjamin Franklin said it best, lost time is never found. Okay? Third, they are strategic, they're not tactical. They are proactive, they're not reactive. They make decisions based on facts. They don't shoot from the hip. Shooting from the hip can lead to a very badly injured foot or a Dick Cheney moment. Okay? They stay very focused. They course correct as necessary. They communicate clearly and openly. It is said that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. They honor teamwork. I want to stress that. They honor teamwork. And the best way to think about teamwork is teamwork divides tasks and multiplies success. That's what teamwork is about. Their leaders lead by example. They accept responsibility and they give credit. They attract the brightest people for their organizations who have multiple skills. They hire carefully. It is said that the difference between genius and stupidity is that genius has its limits. They put their faith in the common decency of human beings. Everyone is trusted and the leaders respect everybody inside and outside the organization. They have a firm belief in the power of doing good. This is very, very critical. This is the best lesson I can teach you guys. The more good they do, the more good happens. This is very important in life. Don't get bitter about things and don't wish people well. Do your best towards doing that. In most cases, with good leaders, you find out they pray to God. Because when life knocks you down on your knees, you're in the perfect position to pray. Now, let's take some of these personal principles and organizational principles and see how we can apply them to our community. And if you will allow me, to the Muslim community. So, we have 20% of the world population. We have 7% of the GDP. Have you thought about that? We are under-leveraged by a factor of 3. We have a faith where we understand it by our cultures, not by the essence of it. We understand it by its rituals, not by its essence. We have forgotten the message of our prophet. We are broken as tribes and nations instead of one ummah. But that's one fine thing. That's okay. These things happen. What are you going to do about it? As a little kid, I used to complain a lot of things to my father. He would turn around and say, "That's great. But what are you going to do about it?" So I'm going to ask all of you, quit complaining. Do something about it. But do it in a good way. Don't do it in a negative way. But do something about it. That's what you've got to set out as a goal for yourself. What are you going to do about it? Invest in yourself. Create a community of good human beings and build a better world. Okay. Now, there's lots of talk about getting organized. Yes, get organized. You heard my statement about teamwork. Get organized. All right? Don't break out in smaller groups. Don't go out and fight each other. Have some patience. Build a community. Build teamwork. Have a little respect. Have shared goals. Work on those things. That's how you build a community. All right. Now, when you get organized, then you can look at helping each other. Go to the next level. Find your brother a job, your sister a job. Help them with your nodes. Get organized. Find people who can guide people in careers. Lots of ways to get organized. But consciously make that effort towards building a good community. also involved with the other community. We are American Muslims by and far. Get involved with the American community. You're proud of being an American. You're no less American than anybody else. Only difference may be some came early, some came later. We all came from somewhere, unless there's some people of the red Indian blood here. Thirdly, become role models. You have to remember, you have to understand your responsibility. As a Muslim, you should be a good role model for Muslims and for other non-Muslims. Never misunderstand that. You have that responsibility. You're privileged, you have a great education, you're going to get better, but understand the responsibility that you have to be a good role model. Don't ever let that responsibility go. Create organizations, get involved in your community at all levels. Don't just stay within amongst yourselves. The rule of thumb I like to tell people, spend 50% of your time with non-Muslims. Let them see the wonderfulness about who you are and what you can do. Finally, I don't know, well, actually I've zipped through this real fast. So I'll take a few questions towards the end. A lot of people tell me and turn around and say, this is really nice stuff. But nothing really happens, whole bunch you can't change the world. It's been this way. It's going to get worse. All these wonderful conspiracy theories come out. They get fancier every day. Okay, well, I have a few thoughts to share with you. The common complaint is one man cannot make a difference. Well, Oscar Wilde said the definition of a cynic is one who knows the price of everything but the value of nothing. Okay? So let's talk about one man making a difference. In my own lifetime, Nelson Mandela, one man, spent 27 years in prison, comes out of prison, forgives the people who had one of the most terrible dictatorships in the history of Africa, who basically were racist and practiced the segregation of people, forgives them without a drop of blood being shed, transforms that country into a democracy. This is not poetry. This is reality. And he did that through his sheer power of forgiveness, through the process of truth and reconciliation. So one man can make a difference. For those of you who are interested in technology, we can talk about two Stanford students who took on the world, took on Microsoft, took on everybody else, and started Google. They were told, what the hell is this search about? But they went ahead, you know where Google is, $250 billion market cap today. But more important, I want to talk about a college dropout, the son of a Muslim father, who built the world's most valuable company. And he did that because he pushed the envelope. He said, he gave us things that everybody told us that we didn't need. And today, we cannot live without. Steve Jobs. One man made a difference. So don't ever buy conventional wisdom, even if it's for sale. One man can make a difference. Chart your own course. Go out and be successful. But do it with the principles we talked about. Go out and make your brother or sister even more successful. That is how you can be better. And go out and build a better world. Yeah, I think if you have questions for Amina or myself, we'll be happy to take them.
Just raise your hand if you have a question.
So the question was, there were 5 points. What was the first one? The first one was, anybody remember? Follow your heart. Already if it's hiring. I'm not. I don't know if you're hiring.
Send your resume.
My question was, what book would you recommend on success? Because I know I've read The Secret and talked about a lot of factors and everything. It's a great book.
Yes.
But what would you also recommend?
Okay, so the question was, what book would I recommend on success? So Secret's one of my personal favorites, so I like them to be better book. I teach everything that I taught you guys today. Most of it and everything I teach in corporate is from a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. So that's the one I recommend. But honestly, all of them are good. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is fantastic. It's really old, but you can see that all of these principles have been around for a long time. Do you have, Brother Jamal, a book you would recommend?
I would recommend a book, but there's a website up here called World Harmony Online. If you are interested in building a better world, I'd encourage you to build it. It's all exactly what it says, World Harmony Online. You have a question?
Do you have a question? I do, yes. You see me actually something. Which reminds me, actually, I have a workbook about setting goals with a lot more detail, so I'll put the website up here. If you guys are interested, you can just go to the website and download it for free. You'll see a place to do that. And it has all the stuff I covered, plus like a worksheet to actually set goals. So I think this is in the I don't know if you guys have the program right now, but it's in the program too. It's Fresnel Consult, Fresnel Consult, consult.com. And if you go there, there's a place to enter your name and it'll email you the workbook for setting goals. Everything I covered is in there.
Quick question for Professor Lenny. You mentioned that Muslims are feeling their religion more something of ritual rather than essence. If you could sum up what the essence that you're talking about in the context of your speech, what would you say?
That's a great subject. I could just take a couple of minutes. Well, of course, these are how I understand them, and God forgive me if my assessment is incorrect. But trying to put it in perspective. Obviously, we all know about the 5 pillars of our faith, right? Starting with Shahada going on, prayers, zakat, pilgrimage, and the rest of it that comes along. You know, we follow what's in the Quran to guide ourselves. But I think about it in some simple ways. Okay? First of all, it begins with the belief in a single creator. So no ambiguity about it, simple. You submit to the will of God. So that's kind of the first process that you go through. Obviously, I believe in the prophet being the last prophet per se. But beyond that, I think about, you know, basic ways about what makes us a little different in some ways. The concept of the balance between rights and obligations that we have towards each other. The concept of doing good. The concept that we must do things with free will, with no compulsion. That we should be judged by our ability to comprehend things. Because if we can't comprehend something, you're not going to be judged for that. So, doing that. The concept of proportionality. That everything has to be proportional. Nature has its balance. So the concept of proportionality of everything, every act requires a certain thing. The pursuit of knowledge. It's a cardinal principle in our faith. So often misunderstood. We need to pursue knowledge so we can perfect our own understanding. The concept of, in my humble opinion, equality of our sexes in terms of equity, not necessarily the equality part, but equity, equal opportunity. They may be different, but they have that respect There's so much beauty in our faith that when you start taking these principles and applying these core values, giving to others what you want for yourself, speaking the truth, compassion, understanding, you find out it liberates you. But I'll also tell you that you find out that all religions really are the same. It's 90% agreement, 10% disagreement, and we spend all our lives arguing about what that 10% is instead of creating the harmony, the world harmony, of finding the 90% that unites us and not focus on the 10%. I call it the Big Tent principle. Let's come under a Big Tent. Let's invite everybody in it. Let everybody find his own feet, his own way. But let's give him that time and space. I think my understanding of our faith gives that to us. It allows us to extend it to everybody. And that's the beauty of how I look at our faith. I'm not stuck in dogma. I'm not stuck that I need someone to help me understand my faith. I think God gave me an intellect to teach, to learn, to study, to absorb, and I think I can do that. I encourage you to do it. I don't want you to think differently, but I want you to think about it for a while if you can, and channel your life towards fearing God and helping others.